You wake up with salt in your throat and iron on your neck. No name. No welcome. Just a collar ring and eyes that measure you like a tool. They show you bread warm. Reel, then slam the door. Then they drop a key in the mud like mercy and watch what your hand does. Because here, the trap isn't the key, it's the reach. Night after night, they reset the bait. Circle after circle. They reset the shame. If you grab, you're weak. If you hesitate, you're entertainment. If you refuse, they punish you anyway. And then you notice it. 2 overseers. One places the bait. One watches faces. Someone records flinches. Fear is the product. Obedience is the export. In the dust, you find a small carved token like a name you were never allowed to keep. You hide it. Torchlight sweeps. Your breath stops. Morning comes. A new thrall enters the gate. The key drops near his feet. The circle forms. And you realize the final rule. Freedom isn't for you, but they still need you to perform your cage. You wake up with salt in your throat and iron on your neck. The collar isn't just metal. It's a sentence. They don't ask who you are. They already decided what you are. A pale face, messy hair, tears that won't stop staining your cheeks. A bruise they press with 2 fingers just to see if your mouth trembles wider. A dangling chain they tug like it's a leash on a stray thought. And then they show you bread. Not enough to feed you, just enough to make you remember what warmth feels like. Your hand reaches bare fingers, shaking, and stops mid-air because a shadow steps between you and the basket. No words, no warning. Just the rule. Wanting is allowed. Touching is punished. They push you forward into the dockyard, where fog sits low like a lid over the sea. Older eyes watch from the side quiet. Practiced. Empty. You understand quickly. Nobody here is surprised to see you. You're lined up. Turned. Checked. Your collar ring lifted like proof that you belong to someone else. And then the day becomes a rhythm you didn't choose. Drag the net. Scrub the boards. Carry what's heavy. Move when they point. Your chain scrapes on wood. That sound becomes your new name. They set a ration bowl down just out of reach. Not because they forgot you're hungry, but because hunger is the lever they prefer. You lean forward. A staff slams beside the bowl. Not to break it. To break the idea that you're allowed to reach. And when they walk away, leaving the bowl untouched, you don't feel relief. You feel the trap still open. Because even when the overseer isn't looking, the crowd is. They march you to a longship where the oars are stacked like teeth. A ring on the rail waits for your chain. Click. Locked. Row. Pull. Row. Pulled. Cold mist hits your face like a slap that never ends. Your tears mix with fog until you can't tell what's you anymore. Then, beside the hull, you see it. Driftwood bobbing in dark water. And tied to it, an iron key. Your heart jumps hard enough to shake your grip. The oar slips for half a beat. That's all it takes. You feel the gaze land on you. Not anger. Interest. Night drops like a curtain. You crawl under the pier where the boards are wet and the shadows are deep. Chain slack for once, just enough to pretend you're free. The key sits in mud like it's waiting for you. Like it wants to belong to your hand. Torchlight sweeps the water. You flatten against stone. Bare feet on cold rock. Breath locked behind your teeth. The light lingers near your toes long enough for your mind to invent consequences. Then slides away. You move fast. Finger to metal. Key snatched. Hidden in ragged fur against your chest. For a second. You think you want something. Then you see two silhouettes behind barrels. Perfectly still. Perfectly calm. They weren't searching for you. They were watching you. Your foot nudges a pile of rings, metal clacks once. Loud as thunder in silence. Torches flare like a verdict. You're caught mid-step. The key bulges under your cloak. The chain at your neck feels heavier than the sea. They drag you into a circle. Not to punish you privately. To display you. Because here, shame isn't a consequence. It's a tool they reuse. Hands yank your cloak open. The key is revealed like evidence. The crowd leans closer. Hungry for the moment your face breaks. And then they do the coldest thing of all. They don't keep the key. They place it back in the mud. Same spot. Same angle. Reset. Like bait on a hook. You understand what they wanted now. Not the key. Not the theft. The reach. So the next morning is worse. Not because your work increases, but because the tests multiply. Scrub. Carry. Lift. Hold a rope coil overhead until your arms shake. Stand at attention while fog beats on your face. Let a fly crawl across your bruise without moving a muscle. Every twitch is watched. Every swallow is counted. A crust is placed in your basket. And then half is pinched away. To remind you that even mercy is owned. They toss a cloak pin at your feet. A small thing. An easy thing. But the circle forms around it like it's a ritual. Bend and you look desperate. Don't bend and you look defiant. Either way, they get a story. You start to bend. A heavy step closes in. You pull back. Cheeks hot. Mouth trembling open. And the crowd silence turns into that soft, cruel smile. Because they're not waiting for you to succeed. They're waiting for you to react. And then, somewhere near the middle of the day, the machine shows itself. You notice two overseers again. One places bait. One watches faces only, never the object. And in the background, scribes scratch marks on a board. No readable words, just tallying. Not who stole, not what was taken, who flinched, who hesitated, who showed hunger in their eyes. Your stomach drops so hard it feels like you swallowed ice. Because the twist isn't that they set traps. The twist is what the traps are for. They don't care about theft. They care about fear. Fear is the product. Shame is the tool that distributes it. The circle is the factory floor. And you're the raw material. That's why the outcome never changes. That's why you're punished if you grab, and punished if you don't. That's why they can take your ration, even when you behave perfectly. Power decides first, then it writes the reason after. They offer you a clean-looking cloak near an open gangplank and point outward like permission. Go? Your body wants to move so badly it hurts. Your feet shift. But you stop mid-step. Because the easiest door is always the loudest trap. You hear chalk again. The scribes are recording who stepped, who froze, who believed. The cloak is yanked away. Your chain is hooked tighter. Permission was bait. Again, you learn a new survival skill. Not fighting back. Not escaping. Refusing to perform. When the key drops near your foot this time, you don't look. You don't twitch. You keep your eyes forward. Jaw locked. Like a statue that learned how to breathe. The circle leans in, confused, because the machine feeds on reaction, and you just starved it. So they escalate. They snatch your bread anyway. They spill the broth cup before you can drink. They tighten the chain ring on the longship rail until the metal bites your collar. Row. Pull. Row. Pull. Storm mist whips your face. Your wrists burn. Your mouth trembles open, begging to cry. And you clamp it shut. Silence is survival. Night returns. In a storage corner, under a plank, you find something small and carved. A wooden token, worn smooth like it has been held 1,000 times. It feels wrong in your hand, not because it's dangerous, because it's proof. Proof that someone before you tried to keep something human. A name, a childhood, a self. You hide it in your fur. Torchlight sweeps. You freeze so hard your bones feel like they turn to iron. The light pauses near your bare feet. Just long enough for your mind to scream. Then passes. You exhale silently, clutching the token like it might disappear. And now the second twist lands. Sharp and quiet. Childhood isn't something you lose by accident. It's contraband. They don't just starve your stomach. They starve the part of you that expects comfort. They punish the reflex to hope. Because a child asks why. A child reaches for kindness. A child believes the key might mean freedom. And this place cannot allow that. So they bury it. They mock it. they measure it out of you. Morning.
Shop.com.
The bait drops again.
Key.
Key.
Polarization.
Crust. Pin.
To shop.com.
Anything small enough to tempt.
And
The circle
polarization.
forms again. And you see the full loop like a blueprint. Bait placed. Eyes watching faces. Marks scratched. Shame delivered. A factory lined for obedience that looks like pride. Then the token slips. It skitters across the deck toward the warrior's boots. A tiny piece of forbidden self rolling into the open. Your body wants to die for it. To scramble. To beg. But you don't. You stop it with your foot's small movement. Controlled. Eyes forward. Mouth trembling but silent. Brows heavy with that practiced worry you're no longer allowed to show. The overseer steps closer. Testing. If no reaction, will be punished too. And when you give them nothing, they punish you anyway. Ration yanked away. Chain tugged tight. Outcome decided. But something has changed. Not the system. You. Because now you know what they're buying with your suffering. A performance. A story for the crowd. A lesson that teaches everyone else to police themselves. So you do the final thing they don't expect. You bury the token back under the plank. You hide childhood again. Not because you stopped caring. Because you refuse to let them use it. Days blur into the same cold rhythm. Hauling. Scrubbing. Not tying. Rowing. You move faster now. Cleaner. Sharper. Not healed. Forged. You wipe tears once quick. Violent, then erase your face before anyone can record it. Even your stillness is counted. Chalk scratching somewhere behind you. And then the gate creaks. A new thrall enters the harbor yard young. Shaking, eyes hunting for warmth the way yours used to. You stand beside him. Same folk, same boards, same iron ring waiting. He glances at the crust. Your jaw tightens because you know what happens next. The key drops near his feet. The circle forms instantly. Everyone watches the boy. Not the hands that placed the bait. Same misdirection. Same machine. Your fingers twitch once toward the plank where the token sleeps. One urge to pass on a name. A warning. Anything. And you stop. Not because you don't care. Because you finally understand the last rule. If you react, you feed the machine. If you reach, you give them the story they want. If you beg, you hand them the pen that writes your cage. So you stand under the cold Nordic fog. Chain hanging, collar heavy, face pale and wet with old tears that no longer fall. Freedom isn't for you, but you're mine. They don't get that for free. And as the circle tightens around the new kid, you keep your eyes forward, silent, steady, and you let the factory starve.